Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to Channel 209 News. I'm your host, William Porter, and we've got some exciting things to discuss today. 1. Mackenzie will have your weather, as you will need to know what to wear for this weekend. Next, she'll be discussing the endangered animals out here in Africa, and she will be live in the field. After that, you'll have Zeke discussing the apartheid issue going on in South Africa, and after that, Carrie discussing your sports, and you'll get to see some of Zeke's awesome soccer moves. And after all of our amazing co-hosts, you'll come back to me. We'll discuss the Ebola epidemic, as well as one of Boeing's 737 planes crashing, killing all on board.
Thank you, William. Now for your weather forecast in Africa. Current weather. Africa's weather is currently around 77 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit during the day. March is typically the last cool month of the year in Africa, so we will not be seeing cooler temperatures until April, which will lead us into heavy showers and rainfall. Let's take a look back into 1983 when the Guinea earthquake struck in northern Guinea. There was a magnitude of 6.3 and approximately 300 people were killed and over 1 million went missing. Many people were shocked due to earthquakes in the West Africa region being very rare. One of the activities that many tourists enjoy participating in when visiting Africa are getting to see the wildlife safaris. It is sad to say that many of these animals that people enjoy seeing are becoming endangered, such as the African elephant, riverine rabbit, the black rhino, the zebra, the mountain goat, and even the chimpanzee. But these animals are not necessarily a lost cause yet. There are many ways that you can help save these endangered animals. There are many organizations and support groups that allow anyone to donate or to keep up to date with the conditions of these animals. The primary threat to these animals are a loss of habitat due to mining, agriculture, and urban development.
They're chasing. Now they're gonna have to find the rest of the pack. Okay, they found it.
Another occurring issue in Africa that contributes to the amount of endangered animals is the problem of deforestation. It is a very complex issue. The world's tropical forest was reduced by an average of 15.4 leaves per year. Another issue along these lines are that developing countries rely heavily on wood fuel for cooking and heating. It is affecting the habitat of many animals living within the forest. It also increases the interaction of wild animals with humans, which is not always a good thing. Stopping deforestation will take an international effort, and to be most effective, will take focus on using forests in sustainable ways, such as limiting logging and increasing the numbers of seeds planted.
Would you just take a look at those beautiful animals? I could not imagine living here in Africa and not seeing those, especially those beautiful baby elephants. But stay tuned now for Carrie with your sports.
Thank you, William. And now for our sport.
In 2010, the FIFA World Cup was hosted in South Africa. This was Africa's first World Cup. Guest was Nelson Mandela, South Africa's former president. Countries that made it into the round of 16 were Uruguay, Korea, United States, Ghana, Netherlands, Slovakia, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, Mexico, Germany, England, Paraguay, Japan, Spain, and Portugal. In the quarterfinals, there were Argentina, Germany, Paraguay, Spain, Uruguay, Ghana, Netherlands, Brazil. And in the semifinals were Uruguay, Netherlands, Germany, and Spain. And in the final, it was Netherlands versus Spain. Spain won with the 116th minute, and they scored a goal by Andres. Ghana was the only country to have made it in the round of 16 and the quarterfinals.
Thank you, Carrie. I remember watching that World Cup. Ghana really gave it their all to make it into the 16th round. But here's more on the Boeing 737 flight. The move to ban these aircraft from flying in the airfield came after a flight flying from Ethiopia to Kenya crashed in a field, killing every single passenger on board. It was reported that the flight had technical problems and asked for permission to turn back and land to prevent any danger, but it crashed on the way back. While going through the rubble, they found an obscure part called a jack screw. This is what moves the stabilizers up and down on the tail. And the way that it was found shows that the stabilizers were tilted upward, causing the plane to go down. Another tragic event has happened here in Africa. A school containing more than 100 students collapsed on Lagos Island. There is no clear reason for it, but it is most likely due to the poor building regulations that they have placed. So far, there is no clear number for how many have passed away, been injured, or who still may be trapped in all of the rubble. Please continue praying for these who have lost their children or are going through very tough times. Thank you. Now for 5 facts about Africa. 1. It is completely legal to attach flamethrowers to your car to prevent carjacking. 2. Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt. 3. The world's biggest frog is found in Equatorial Guinea. Number 4. Europe and Africa are only 9 miles apart. And number 5. Most of the world's gold is mined in Africa. Hope you enjoyed those 5 facts. Here's Zeke with everything you need to know about politics here in Africa.
Nelson Mandela was released from prison on February 11, 1990 after serving 27 years. On April 27, 1994, the South African apartheid finally came to an end. After a lengthy fight against the apartheid government in South Africa, Namibia is the last of the African states colonized by European powers to gain independence. This occurs on the 21st of March in 1990. Nelson Mandela is finally released from prison on February 11, 1990, after serving 27 years in prison. Citizens were angry that Nelson Mandela was in prison because he was only trying to gain independence for South Africa. The government's ideas to put Nelson Mandela in prison completely backfired on him because when he was released, apartheid came to an end. South Africa is a parliamentary representative democratic republic wherein the president of South Africa, which is elected by parliament, is the head of government and is a multi-party system. Executive power is exercised by the government, and the legislative power is vested in both the government and the 2 chambers of parliament.
Nelson Mandela really played a big role in the apartheid here in South Africa. But enough about all this politics stuff. Let's go back to Carrie on everything with pop culture.
Thank you, William. And now for our pop culture segment.
Much of pop culture nowadays is inspired by many cultures. An example of this would be African culture. Black Panther, a well-known movie, incorporates many aspects that are associated with African culture. The creators of Black Panther used contemporary and ancient African cultures as inspiration. Costume designer Ruth Carter and the film's production designer Hannah Beachler used real African tribes and cultures as inspiration for their work. In the movie, symbols like the ones in this picture appear. The text was described as Wakandan text, but in reality, the text is actually inspired by Nsabidi symbols from southeastern Nigeria. The tall spears and deep red features that appear in this picture are said to be associated with Maasai warriors. The rings worn in this picture were worn by one of the characters in Black Panther. These rings come from the Ndebele tribe,
They indicate when a woman is married and are often given to women by their husbands. Although they are very traditional, they have now become a fashion trend in South Africa.
Just recently, 5 militants were attacked at the Ebola treatment center in the Congo. One was an officer who was sadly killed. As the nation continues to battle with the growing epidemic that has killed hundreds, the World Health Organization says that a staff member was also injured in the Saturday attack. Investigators are trying to find an underlying cause as to what the attack was for and are still searching for a reason. World Health Organization Director Tedros was in for a 3-day visit and spoke with many of the officials and staff at the center after the attack. The nation's current Ebola outbreak started in August. It is the second largest and second deadliest in history. It is only topped by the one recently in Africa in 2014, when the disease killed more than 11,000 people, according to the World Health Organization. One of those cases was flighted to the United States in a city of the name of Atlanta and was successfully treated. Let's hope that Africa can continue to fight this Ebola epidemic and fight it once and for all and find a cure. For those of you all about economics, here's your brief overview on Africa's current economy. Africa is a middle-income emerging market with an abundant supply of natural resources. It is well developed financially, legally, and has great communications. It has a vast amount of energy and transport sectors, and a stock exchange that is Africa's largest and among the top 20 in the world. More on natural resources coming up next. Africa is incredibly rich in natural resources. It has huge untapped reserves of natural gas and oil. In fact, it has 10% of the world's reserves. And it has largely exploited hydroelectric power. It is also home to vast gold, platinum, uranium, iron ore, copper, and diamond reserves. Currently, only 10% of Africa's arable land is being cultivated, yet it holds around 60% of the world's cultivatable land. As such, Africa has become a magnet for foreign direct investment, also known as FDI. Africa also has the advantage of a large and relatively cheap educated labor force. The continent is undergoing a demographic transformation with youth as its theme. There's a very high production of Africans in their 20s and 30s with fewer dependents, both old and young. This will play out over the next few decades, increasing the labor force. A deadly cyclone struck Mozambique and other countries in southern Africa. It has nearly obliterated the worst affected areas, flooding vast stretches of land, destroying roads and dams, and cutting off victims from help. The cyclone, called Idai, has affected more than 1.5 million people, and it has a death toll currently of 12, but they fear that it could be far more as they search through the rubble. The storm destroyed 90% of Beira, a city of about 500,000 people that is in Mozambique's fourth largest and faces the Indian Ocean. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies said on Monday that it is a real disaster of great proportions. The Red Cross and other aid organizations have now estimated the death toll to be around 150, though they warned that the figure could rise as rescuers reach previously inaccessible areas. Mr. Nusi said the death toll in Mozambique, which stood at 84, should climb to more than 1,000. The storm landed in Beira late Thursday, moving inland to Malawi in Zimbabwe. Aerial images of the city showed houses surrounded by water. Aid officials reported widespread damage to homes, hospitals, and schools, and many areas were left without electricity and telephone service. If there's any way you can help these in need, please visit our website, channel209.net, and under the Help tab, click on Mozambique's. Thank you. Well guys, that's all we have for you today here on Channel 209 News. But let's give a special shout out to our co-host, Mackenzie, who is reporting live out in the field in Africa and provided us with great live footage and photos. And Carrie, who did a great job explaining the World Cup that happened here in Africa, as well as the pop culture and how Africa is so involved in movies, music videos, and so many artists travel here to do their work. And Zeke, who did a great job with the politics of this show. And for more on the medicine, current events, pop culture, weather, anything, you know Channel 209's got you. Thank you. Have a great evening.